We're here at the Bloom Festival at Phoenix Park, and I'm talking to Graham Hall from the Beekeepers. And I'm going to ask Graham to explain to us and take us through the processes of the beehive here.
Well, what we have in Bloom, as well as an observation hive behind glass, is a virtual hive, showing what bees are like, but painted onto that so that people can see them and see that on the edge of a beehive there tends to be relatively few bees, but room to store honey, which was needed to keep the adult bees fed and keep us fed, and room to store pollen, which is vital for feeding the young, but more important in nature, is vital for pollinating all the trees, flowers, shrubs and fruits that we have to eat. And further into the hive, you'll see on the obverse of that, it's again in real life, there tend to be much more in the way of bees, and then spaces for that. And going towards the centre of the hive, you get into much bigger areas of bees where they're concentrated more, and where there's also brood areas. Some in the middle have hatched out and aren't covered over. Some at the side, which the queen has laid later, are still covered over, and the bees are on that, keeping it warm. And even nearer the centre again of the hive, you'll have areas that will show something like the queen bee, which beekeepers will always mark because it's the easier way for us to find her if we need to control where she is, if we need to see whether there's a swarm, so that we can be sure to find her and be able to breed into separate hives. So this shows what a beekeeper is looking at in real life, and is a great help if you can't actually get live hives that are round. This is areas called the brood chamber because all the brood is kept there, and in nature again, the bees store honey above that, and what the beekeeper calls a super, we will put above that as a way of storing honey. And to be sure that the queen only puts honey above and not below, we put a slatted bit of metal that only worker bees can get through and queen bees can't, called a queen excluder. And we put the queen excluder on, and we'll then put the super over the queen excluder, and that allows the bees to store the honey in the combs that we have that the bees have drawn out in previous years. And once they've stored the nectar, which is very weak at that stage, they will evaporate that. And once it's suitably dry to be honey, they will cap it over with wax, and it's suitable as stores for them for winter, and will keep forever for us as honey to eat. So that's what a hive will look like.
Well, I'm going to ask a question that just occurred to me. If we then take this honey, what are the bees going to be?
Well, luckily, and this is the idea of the size of design, that the area below for the hive will have enough room from some of the frames at both the front and the back of the hive to be able to store enough food in for winter storage. So they'll be able to eat what they've stored for that, and therefore the beekeeper is only taking the extra. The essential bit for them to have is what the bees have kept below.
That's brilliant. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. I know all the life cycle of bees, etc., but how it's produced is super. So what we're going to ask you to do next is bring us on to the live hive in our next clip.
Yep.